I had met him as a cinema goer because I'd seen him in the Story of Adele H. and Romeo and Juliet as well when he was Benvolio.
Turn thee, Benvolio. Look upon thy death.
I do but keep the peace. Put up thy sword, or manage it to part these men with me.
What? Drawn and talk of peace?
Initially, of course, Robinson wanted to be an actor, and he went to the Central School Speech and Drama with that in mind. Oddly enough, almost as soon as he got there, he began to feel uncomfortable with it. And he acted in a few movies, and his career as an actor really peaked with Adele H., in which he played the leading role.
I remembered him as, certainly in the Story of Adele H., as being an incredibly handsome rock and roll kind of looking man who was a crap actor. And the person that I was living with at university had a picture of him up in our bathroom because she thought that he was very fanciable.
Votre père a changé d'idée. Je ne l'aurais pas cru.
Alors tu vois, nous pouvons nous marier maintenant.
Je vous l'ai déjà dit, Adèle, c'est hors de question.
Because that was my first exposure to writing per se, I was looking at screenplays, so I thought, you know, I remember thinking, God, I can do these better than this, I could do this better than this dialogue sucks. You know, so I started writing screenplays. Had I been a better actor, I'd have probably gotten to the theatre and started maybe writing plays, although thank God I didn't, because I can't bear plays.
I read a manuscript copy of what became Withnail, an early draft, and I thought it was wonderful writing, just kind of a tour de force of writing. I didn't particularly like the subject matter, and I certainly wasn't. The idea of doing it as a movie didn't necessarily appeal to me, but I thought it was just a stunning piece of writing and really interesting, original.
He was the one who brought him in and got him to work on various projects, some of which did get done, some of which didn't. A script for Germinal, based on the Zola novel. A script of The Moderns, which was later made by Alan Rudolph. He even commissioned a script for High Rise by J.G. Ballard, which is still sitting on the shelf somewhere and ought to be made.
I have no idea, it was a pretty inspired idea, but I have no idea why I took The Killing Fields to him. Partly I think because Bruce has quite a lot of anger in him, and he has very strong feelings about right and wrong, imperialism, non-imperialism.
I don't know if you've ever seen a B-52 in flight, have you? It's like hell. It's like something coming through the gates of hell. It's bigger than a 747 with 4 engines. Black they are. They paint these things black. They're like hell. Birds out of hell. So the Cambodians, this charming country that hasn't had any grief from anyone for 8 centuries, suddenly is being bombed day and night by the most powerful nation on earth. And by God, it made me so angry, you know, which was the thing that motivated me to write The Killing Fields.
For the past 5 years, as indicated on this map that you see here, North Vietnam has occupied military sanctuaries all along the Cambodian frontier with South Vietnam.
The flickering screen seems to hypnotize the atmosphere. This is 1968, and the year the illegal bombing of Cambodia began. Edited highlights of political mendacity. The president is making his famous speech about peace.
There will be no American combat troops or advisors in Cambodia. We will aid Cambodia. Cambodia is the Nixon doctrine in its purest form.
And the B-52s almost fly out of his mouth. The giant aeroplanes dump their filth over a jungle landscape. They move with the velocity of flies. Bombs burst like little lines of bubbles.
When I first read The Killing Fields, I think it was 325 pages long, I absolutely couldn't put it down. And that happens very rarely with screenplays. And the sense that one had that Bruce was in those scenes, had somehow in a strange way got himself present in them, was phenomenal.
What Bruce did was he supplied us with trigger after trigger after trigger. I mean, one of the very interesting things is that the Nessun Dorma sequence was written. Bruce wrote that. Everything that happens when Schoenberg walks in and puts the music on, watches the images on television. There's not a word spoken, but that is all written by Bruce. The synchronicity, tone and texture and energy.
Television images and opera dominate all. Only Puccini survives the fade. And here it is, and this is what the words add up to. Pran is digging a trench in Cambodia. The sun is overhead, hard black shadows, and black pajamas, straw hats, and Ho Chi Minh sandals made out of tractor tires. A citizen of democratic Kampuchea. I'd been writing seriously for 15 years before The Killing Fields. And then suddenly, you know, you go from nothing to a big picture like that with an Oscar nomination and all the rest of the bollocks. You know, it was a shock to me.
This is Bruce Robinson.
Thank you terribly. There's so many people that I'd love to thank, but I'm going to reduce it to one, and that's Roland Joffe. I sort of conceived it, but he brought the thing up, and he did it wonderfully, in my opinion. Thank you.
But I hate Hugh and Henry and dog 'em in the weeds. I could strangle you.
It's a horrible process, and I don't enjoy writing. It's a lonely and ugly experience, and normally it would be sort of typing with my nose because I'm so fucking pissed.
Because of this $200 an hour Scotch bitch.
The difference between me now and me when I'm on my own is it's a lot more extreme. I mean, you sort of see me waddling up and down, having a glass of wine and a fag, and there he goes, the hound, waddling about, as though it's sort of an easy process, and it isn't. I mean, it's the most nightmarishly difficult thing to do. For me, I find it very hard, you know.
But I'm not in love with you.
I mean, literally, when I say I'm typing with my nose, Sophie's come in here and caught me typing with my nose, where I'm sort of... I use a typewriter simply because I can get at the paper, i.e. I'm typing and I have an idea and I can get a pen on the side of the piece of paper. Also, I can hate the paper. Anything I do wrong, I can tear the bastard out and flob at it, cover it in wire and throw it in the bin. I must have paper, I must be in contact with the paper. In fact, normally on these machines, on these lovely IBMs, I normally tear that top off. But I keep that top on because of my James Joyce quote there. Write it, damn you. What else are you good for?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Fat Man and Little Boy, the true story behind the building of the first atomic bomb. The first draft, or second draft, at any rate the draft I read, I thought was brilliant, and was a real eye-opener. It was an expose, and was Bruce at his political best.
Bruce became absolutely obsessed about what he saw as the murder of Oppenheimer's mistress.